Before we get going, there's a brief 3-minute video on LioConCoy's channel that sums up the entire experience. If you haven't seen my stream on the matter, which includes testimony from Mintheart, who's had first-hand involvement with the predator in question, let us begin. Hi, I'm FNGR, this is How Not to Brony, and today I'm going to provide something that'll likely make me unpopular. This is Taylor Stanley. He is an EMT as well as a volunteer firefighter. Some of you may say, what have you done with your entire life, Anthony Aguilar, to criticize someone who is a licensed emergency medical technician, who by the time he was 20 has done more and making more of his life than I ever will. In fact, Taylor Stanley will, in addition with his work as an EMT and a firefighter, he also volunteered for BronyCon 2019. As far as I can publicly tell you, as of today, they still fully support him on con staff. Well, let's narrow that down to 2 people. As I've heard from rumors, there's a thing called an NDA. That's a non-disclosure agreement. This is the head of con staff, Sheer Goodburb. I feel by now, considering my stance on predators, I and my fans will likely be abundantly clear, so I'm going to include a list of Sheer Goodburb's followers on screen that no doubt has members on con staff. My words will likely have fallen on deaf ears. There is roughly 770 followers on Sheer Goodburb's Twitter. If any of you or any of them, perhaps your voice, be you friend, fan, or otherwise, will have more weight than mine. Due to the uncooperative nature of con staff on Twitter as well as Discord, I've had to do some thinking to put myself in con staff shoes. I don't work in cons. I don't know how much of a background check that volunteers get. That said, if someone who worked as an emergency medical technician wanted to work on my staff, I think it would have been reasonable to jump at the opportunity, not to mention, I remember 18 years ago on September 11th, the position of firefighter became something highly respected if it already hadn't. Due to the sacrifices of these brave individuals who rushed to assist those in peril and ultimately had to pay with their lives. Surely one would assume that someone that managed to hold both of these positions would be an excellent addition to con staff. At a con with over 11,000 attendees, with all the preparations that went into the event, Taylor Stanley must have seemed like a lock, a surefire bet, but here we are. It's been a couple of days since the information dropped. We'll say shy of a week by the time this video drops, and then silence. If I were permitted to speculate on the con's behalf, especially when we talk about things like NDAs, the non-disclosure agreements, if the staff were to admit to negligence on their part or in whole, it is possible that some even might say likely that would open up litigation. I've heard rumors and whispers that Taylor Stanley's pervy behavior may well just scratch the surface, and they are unwilling to talk about that. So let me ask the audience, do you have thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for lawsuits, much less the representation it will take for you to defend yourself in this? This was the last con. The staff only had one hand to play: face potential financial ruin or remain silent. Now before you answer what you would do, sit back in your cozy chair or your bed, look at your fancy screen on your deluxe computer or your fancy phone in your nice, cooled and or heated house, and before you say, I'd do the right thing, think of what you have. During dinner tonight, think about the cost in every luxury in your life, going poof in the blink of an eye on your trusted sure bet. Maybe you won't be able to pay for your pets or your kids, much less for more frivolous luxuries. My heart goes out to Sheer Goodburb. There seems to be a misunderstanding that I'm a callous on the people that I cover. For all my understanding, for all my empathy, even with all that said, I'm not letting you get away with this. You had a dangerous predator who knowingly pursued kids. Thank God I don't run a con. At the breakneck speed that I do things, I would no doubt be in your shoes right now, and people would be dragging me across the coals for it. Now, I've looked into what's at stake on your end. Maybe you'll humor me on mine. An emergency medical technician, as well as a firefighter, has access to men, women, and children at some of their most vulnerable of times. Unlucky or not, it is possible that someone who is so cavalier and careless in trying to put the move so carefree, not just in frequency, but without the slightest series of degree of caution or self-restraint on so many people, may have done much more. On the other hand, maybe, just maybe, you knew at some point, and maybe you just didn't care. Maybe I'm giving you way too much credit, that you made your con money and maybe you just headed to the door. Maybe you don't give a fuck. Addressing Shadow Trot, you were an admin in a Discord. While it is likely if you did not remove LioConCoy, you would have lost your spot as a mod in the Discord chat, I understand that LioConCoy can be abrasive and lacking in a series of tact, but you drew a line in the sand, and unlike sure good burb, you might be able to walk that back. We would like your cooperation. It would be a delight if you said no. Before we get going, I covered this with Mintheart, among other people, and I wanted to address this here. Now, naturally, a child can't consent. That said, this is not the way to say no. Now I'm flustered and shit. Are you 17 or 16? And my face is all red. As is mine, darlin'. Now, imagine for a minute here. A real cringy furry in chat walked up to me and petted me on the head. And if I wanted him to stop, if I blushed furiously, that wouldn't get it done. Do not continue role-playing if an adult or someone you don't like is trying to put the move on you. Let me give you some examples that might be useful, though the level of success will vary if the person you're trying to tell no is a furry. 1. I am going to be sick. 2. I am in horrific pain, please stop. 3. You are not and never will fall within my preferences. 4. This is being posted to Twitter as we speak. 5. I have to go, I have homework. I know some of you guys don't want to come off as blunt, but dealing with adults, especially predatory ones, be clear and on point. If you have dealt with someone like this, I strongly encourage you to come forward. If there's a misunderstanding, reasonable people will prevail, and likely be available. I personally suggest LioConCoy Reviews. If you need to get in touch with him, or myself, my Twitter is on the channel banner and it will be in the description. To adults, if you are into ERP, I suggest adult-only servers. If at any time someone reveals that they're under the age limit, alert the modding staff. Just because you did the right thing doesn't mean the next guy or gal will do the same. If you have friends who make a habit out of being creepy, and maybe they're not listening to direction, maybe they're joked one too many times with people a little too young, ignoring the problem will not make it better, and it will not help matters. Just be glad coming forward isn't going to cost you several $1,000s like potentially BronyCon. Do the right thing. Thank you for your time.